Part 32. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 311. Chat box. Anil : President, my divine sword template has reached the sword heart state, and now I am ready to enter the Tower of Heritage. President : I understand. At the end of this brief conversation, Lu Shu felt a little surprised. Anil broke through to the Jiangxin realm so quickly, the progress was beyond his imagination. However, his sword soul has not yet been conceived. Lu Shu's mind moved, and his thoughts were placed in his own little world. A sword intent is constantly being cultivated as the world tree grows. Maybe, when the day the sword soul is born, his sword god template will instantly surpass the realm of Jianxin, even beyond imagination. Lu Shu is not in a hurry. Anyway, the sword soul will be nurtured by the world tree, and good things will take a long time, no in a hurry. Then, he looked at the current coordinate position. 298, 274. Which is less than a few coordinates away from the location of the suspected tomb. What a strong magnetic field! Lu Shu frowned, sensing that the nearby grey fog was filled with an extremely sinister force. It seemed that as long as you entered it, you would fall into a maze. By the way, I recently stayed at these 10 coordinates for 3 days. The white dragon horse slowly stopped on a sudden barren mountain. Lu Shu jumped down and walked to the side of the cliff, overlooking a barren and defeated land. The endless scorched earth next door, countless incomplete blades, scattered on this land, it seems to imply that a war once took place here. What really makes Lu Shu care about is time. That's right. At the current speed of the white dragon horse, Lu Shu can't even you shouldn't stay at these coordinates for such a long time. Logically speaking, the suspicious tomb should have reached its destination a day ago. But why is it still a little short of the distance until now? The surrounding magnetic field gives Lu Shu felt an unusual feeling. Perhaps, I am now in the realm of doubting the tomb. Lu Shu's eyes showed a bit of etch. So, where is the entrance to the suspicious tomb? Since it is a suspicious tomb, it is naturally not that easy to find. Lu Shu's mental power swept around, but nothing was found for the time being. At this moment, a chat message suddenly popped up in front of me. Xiao Chang'an: President, we are in trouble. They are the 12 guild members heading to coordinates 100, 343. Only then did Lu Shu notice that according to his earlier time estimate, Xiao Chang'an should have arrived at the coordinates 100, 278 by now. It was the territory of an ancient giant dynasty. Countless abyss giants built a magnificent dynasty there. If you want to cross over from this area, just relying on an airship may not be enough. There are also very advanced civilizations in the giant dynasty, and they must have extremely strong strength to cross this dangerous area. Xiao Chang'an was originally very confident. He believed that as long as there was an airship, he would not be afraid of any monsters from the grey world. But he found out he was wrong. And it's so wrong. The grey world has more than just monsters, there are also even more unpredictable civilizations. A memory video was sent to Lu Shu's chat box. The castle that spans in front of the airship is like a kingdom of heaven. Countless buildings tower into the clouds. Various unnamed ancient buildings are built with the blessing of the magic circle. Giant-like flying fortresses are like strips in the sky. The flying dragon hovers 10,000 meters above the sky. That is a height that even an airship cannot surpass. In other words, if Xiao Chang'an and others want to pass through here, they must face the castle of the giant civilization. From the characteristics of the grey world, this place is an abyss occupied by monsters. However, the civilization that remains seems to have strayed into a foreign country. Dozens of giant figures suddenly appeared next to the airship controlled by Xiao Chang'an. They encountered an enemy attack. Every giant monster is a monster with a risk factor of S level or above. In Xiao Chang'an's eyes, this is comparable to a lord-level monster. A giant is no longer something they can handle. What's more, there are giants in all directions now. Xiao Chang'an almost shut himself down. The dozen or so people behind him also showed desperate faces. However, at this critical moment when death was approaching, someone in the team said something: "Whenever you encounter a danger that cannot be solved, contact the president." That's right. President. A spark of hope ignited in Xiao Chang'an's heart. But seeing the giant's strength, that fire of hope was quickly extinguished by a bucket of cold water. Although this guild leader is very powerful, they were forcibly pulled into the guild. Furthermore, in this operation, the president is very likely to just regard them as cannon fodder. Even if there is any solution, can the current strength of the sacred tree master really solve these giants? Nonsense. According to the current progress of the Tower of Heritage, Mu Yu Tingfeng, who is number 1 on the list, also failed in the level facing hundreds of S-class monsters. This giant dynasty is even more terrifying than the Tower of Heritage. The number of S-class monsters is tens of thousands. That's not all. The entire dynasty combined may have hundreds of millions. It would be good if you can survive. There is currently no sacred tree master who can deal with this kind of enemy, right? Just then, Lu Shu sent a message. President: open your trading panel and share these fruits with them. Xiao Chang'an was stunned. In this case, shouldn't it be teleported directly? What fruit do you eat? However, when the trading panel opened, Lu Shu put all the powerful miracle fruit and Vajra immortal fruit on it without saying a word. The number of each fruit is 12. Just enough everyone in the airship will receive one. What kind of fruit is this? When Xiao Chang'an saw the name of the fruit, he couldn't help but complain in his heart. Is the name of the fruit too strange? However, when he saw the description next to it, he was shocked. SSS-level fruit? This is not a dream. Bar. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 312. Is this, a fruit of this level, something I can eat? Xiao Chang'an was about to be dumbfounded. SSS-level fruit. What level is this? Wait. This seems not to be a superpower fruit, but an attribute fruit. Only then did Xiao Chang'an notice that the powerful miracle fruit increased attributes, instead of acquiring one more skill. But, this is outrageous. He has never seen any kind of fruit in his life that can have 2 or more letters at the same time. I saw 3 of them today. Moreover, there is more than one kind of fruit. In addition to the powerful miracle fruit, Xiao Chang'an noticed that there were also 3 golden shining letters next to the Vajra immortal fruit S. 2 SSS-level attribute fruits. 24 in total. Just give it to them, a group of ordinary guild members. Damn it, is it true or false? Xiao Chang'an was stunned on the spot, as if he was in a dream. Captain, are we doomed? Others were shocked when they saw Xiao Chang'an's expression. In their eyes, Xiao Chang'an showed such an expression. Could it be that the president had given up on them by giving them useless fruits? Xiao Chang'an swallowed, and then said to the people around him, "Please open the trading panel and I will share the fruits with you." The teammates all had curious expressions on their faces. What kind of fruit is it? Being able to make Xiao Chang'an show such an expression. When the transaction panel was opened, everyone else also received the strengthening fruit and the Vajra immortal fruit. Suddenly, there was a rare silence on the field. All was quiet. Everyone froze in place, as if they had collectively seen Medusa's eyes, turning into stone and motionless. I don't know how long it took. A gentle hum reverberated in everyone's ears like the sound of nature. Someone in the team broke the silence on the field and said in an unbelievable tone, "Brothers, SSS-level attribute fruit, am I seeing it wrong with my presbyopia?" You read that right, it is indeed an SSS level fruit. The president actually gave us a fruit of this level? Did you give 24 pills at once? Crazy. If I am not crazy today, then our guild is crazy. Have any of you ever heard of that guild's benefit that you can get SSS level fruits just by doing some errands? Don't talk about SSS level fruits. I once joined a guild ranked in the top 100 and helped them kill an abyss level dungeon. As a result, the reward I received was only worth an A level fruit. Fruit, I quit on the spot. Is this fruit really edible? Xiao Chang'an rolled his eyes at the guy who questioned whether he could eat it. The systematic description will not lie. If it is an inedible fruit, it will be marked as an SSS level poison fruit instead of an attribute fruit. Do you still need to question it? Xiao Chang'an took out the Vajra immortal fruit and ate it in one bite. The next second, his body suddenly condensed a thick layer of Vajra, and his whole body became completely different. SSS level physique. Xiao Chang'an couldn't help but exclaimed, "Oh my god, just one fruit can make my physique reach SSS level. What kind of fruit is this? Isn't the president too wealthy?" Others were also completely stunned. After swallowing the SSS level attribute fruit, can you really get the corresponding SSS level physique? Is it so outrageous? In their eyes, it is possible to upgrade the physique to SS level. That was already the peak of attribute fruits. However, Lu Shu's fruit told them, "What SSS level attributes, that's just a fruit. This is too unbelievable. So precious the fruits are really edible for them. Captain, do you believe there are such good things in the world?" A member asked with a trembling voice. Others still had deep shock on their faces, obviously not believing that there could be such a good thing in the world. Xiao Chang'an was silent for a moment, and suddenly, his eyes he became firmer and said loudly and forcefully to everyone present. "In fact, you may have misunderstood one thing at the beginning." "What's the matter?" Everyone looked at a loss. Everyone was forcibly pulled into this guild after being defeated in the 20-man island battle. Is there any misunderstanding? Xiao Chang'an took a deep breath and asked, "Are you just going to join this guild? Have you never thought about why there is a 20-person Sacred Tree Island battle?" Everyone suddenly realized that they all thought of one thing. That's right. The expansion of the island is closely related to the exploration scope of the Grey World. If the number of people in the island battle is far more than usual, then it means that a supermaster may have appeared in the island battle. The person is naturally the president of the Akatsuki organization. They originally thought that the president of the Akatsuki organization just wanted them to be cannon fodder, but they never thought that a strong man of this level really needed cannon fodder, so why would he need to form a guild? Xiao Chang'an took a deep breath and said seriously, "The president didn't ask about our origins, he only asked if we would join. Maybe he didn't treat us as cannon fodder. The reason why he doesn't take a fancy to our abilities and has no interest in our sacred tree is because he is too strong. As long as we join the guild, just a few fruits can make us become top masters. Therefore, we only need to answer whether we agree or disagree, and the rest of the decision-making power is entirely in his hands. We should be lucky that the master is determined to create a guild, otherwise we would be nothing more than a group of ants in his eyes." Hiss. When everyone heard Xiao Chang'an's analysis, they couldn't help but gasp and light up. Is this president's strength really that terrifying? Who is he? Why is it so difficult to find someone with the corresponding identity on the list despite being so powerful in the Shensha game? Xiao Chang'an actually had a vague prediction in his heart, but he was not sure whether the president of the Xiao organization would be that person. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 313. Call. Xiao Chang'an couldn't help but let out a long breath, and there was a hint of disbelief in his eyes. Could it be, is it really him? The legend with the highest ranking on the list? The Divine Tree game has been going on for so long. For a long time, no one can challenge the status. Want to ask? This thought flashed across Xiao Chang'an's mind. However, he finally shook his head. In fact, whether it is that person or not, the result is not important. What is important is that the strength of the president of the Xiao organization is absolutely terrifying. As long as you follow this president, then their next future, even he didn't know what state it would reach. Xiao Chang'an suddenly became extremely excited. Once upon a time, when he first joined this game, he was also full of ambitions, thinking that he could become the destined protagonist among billions of people, and become one of the most powerful Divine Tree Masters. However, the cold reality was like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing all the passion and fantasy in his heart. It was just among the top Divine Tree Masters, a level of talent is nothing. They cannot even enter the top 100 of the rankings. Those top experts were crushed to death with extremely exaggerated points. There are tens of thousands of people down there. Only a few can become the most powerful. After Xiao Chang'an accepted this fact, he already had a full understanding of himself. The rankings were not a place for him to stay. However, these fruits presented by the president made Xiao Chang'an feel as if he was in a dream and couldn't believe it. In a trance, a voice came to his ears, "Captain, why haven't you eaten the fruits in your hand? I saw that several teammates around me had already swallowed the fruit." Suddenly, the group of people in front of me immediately gained an indescribable temperament. It was like a volcano about to erupt, bringing an overwhelming feeling. The amount of pressure caused by it. Although Xiao Chang'an didn't know how terrifying his power would become after swallowing the powerful miracle fruit, the pressure brought by the people around him made him feel great. Shocking. This is 10 times more oppressive than when facing the giant before. It is completely unlike a state that a human being can achieve. Ha ha ha, my power has really reached the SSS level, this fruit is so powerful. Not only his strength, but his physique has also become SSS level. Damn it, then don't we have 2 attributes and reach the pinnacle of this world? Who is the president, and how could he possess such a terrifying fruit? Everyone on the field praised with disbelief. Xiao Chang'an took a deep breath and was about to announce his guess. At this moment, outside, he suddenly remembered a roaring sound. It seemed that there was something thousands of turbine motors were ringing in their ears at the same time. That's the giant's airship. These enemies are following. They were actually able to detect our location. It seems that we still underestimate the technological capabilities of these giants. Xiao Chang'an's face was a little heavy. He quickly ran to the side of the hatch. Several giant figures were immediately reflected in his pupils, jumping towards the airship from a huge parachute. The giants were so huge the body and weight are also extremely exaggerated. If it were to hit the airship head-on, it would be like a giant and the airship would be completely damaged. Kill him. Xiao Chang'an immediately ordered. Everyone was slightly startled. Are you going to go out and fight the giant head-on? I saw a dark and cold ancient knife appearing out of thin air in Xiao Chang'an's hand, and a black light suddenly appeared on the knife. Glowing with a deep and dark light, he slashed forward with his sword. The pylon across the sky immediately enveloped the descending giant. Tisk. With a sound of sonic explosions in the air, the black knife immediately sliced away the giant. The one next door. Woo! The giant let out an earth-shattering roar, and the pain caused by being struck by the knife made it howl. So strong. This scene shocked the teammates on the airship. With just one knife, one of the giant's arms was taken away. It's not like they had never fought against the giant before. But even after the airship charged up, the S-class shells fired could only barely push the giant back, but could not cause substantial damage. When they saw this scene, They felt desperate. The giants' physical fitness far exceeded their imagination. However, Xiao Chang'an's knife just cut off the giant's arm with ease. How much improvement did this bring? A fat man in the team shouted excitedly, "Brother guys, after we ate the fruit of the president, our abilities have become completely different from before. That's right, let's go together and kill these giants. Ha ha ha, it's time to take action on them to see how powerful our SSS level strength and physique are." The members of the Akatsuki organization immediately laughed with excitement. These giants were furious. In their eyes, these tiny humans are just a bunch of bugs and ants. How dare they stray into their territory? They didn't know whether to live or die. However, what they didn't expect was that after chasing them for so long, instead of catching up with them, they actually had an arm chopped off by these villains. What a shame for the giants. They must be killed. Seeing the members of the Akatsuki organization rushing forward, the sneer on the giant's face became even more intense. They uttered an ancient and obscure alien language Dai. But the next second, Xiao Chang'an's figure instantly drew a bright arc, and his calf suddenly released a terrifying force. With just one step, his figure seemed to pop out of a cannon, leaving a trail in the air that was difficult to catch with the naked eye. A black shadow appeared, and the black knife instantly cut across the giant's neck. Bang bang bang. The rain of blood danced in the sky, as if it was about to sprinkle bright red snowflakes on the world. In the disbelief eyes of the giants, Xiao Chang'an blinked. One of their colleagues was killed instantly. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 314. How can it be? Such a weak human being can actually kill our people. They insulted our giant race, kill them. The ancient and obscure language roared out from the mouths of the surrounding giants. All the giants felt a burst of anger. Their eyes were burning with anger, and they wanted to burn all the intruders. Kill. Xiao Chang'an's eyes turned cold. He had eaten the president's fruit. His physique and strength have reached the SSS level. Do we still need to be afraid of a group of giants? The eyes of the friends behind him flashed with excitement. Look. When Xiao Chang'an killed the giants so easily, they no longer felt fear, but instead felt a sense of excitement. Their strength instantly transformed. In the past, the behemoths who could crush them like ants were now under the control of the members of the Akatsuki organization. In front of them, there was just a monster that was difficult to kill. The changes this brought about a transformation in their mentality. Today, we bloodbathe the giants. Xiao Chang'an drove the airship, holding a black knife, and cut open the attacking giant with extremely sharpness. Although other partners did not have such sharp weapons as the black knife, it was mainly because their strength and physique had reached SSS level. Therefore, it can bring about such a big change. It is also quite smooth when killing. Ding. Group member Xiao Chang'an uploaded a guild video. A reminder came to Lu Shu's ear. As soon as he thought about it, the memory video opened. On the screen, a scene of members of the Akatsuki organization killing a giant was played. Those huge behemoths were defeated one by tiny humans. As I expected, it is more than enough to survive the giant dynasty with just gifts of the powerful miracle fruit and the Vajra immortal fruit. Lu Shu nodded, then closed the video and stopped paying attention. Since there is no problem with Xiao Chang'an, then he can completely focus on the matter of the suspicious tomb. At this moment, Lu Shu felt the pressure in his body. There was a strange change in that world. He immediately put his spiritual consciousness into the small world. He saw a white light floating directly above the world tree. From the white light, you could vaguely see the outline of the sword. That sword seemed to be born from chaos, splitting the night and giving birth to the supreme sword intention. The thoughts of world tree and Lu Shu are connected together. Lu Shu can very obviously I feel that the sword intention is about to condense and take shape, and the sword soul carried by the sword god template will also be born from the small world. Interesting, Lu Shu showed a thoughtful expression. He remembered that Anil had sent him a message not long ago, saying that she had awakened the sword soul and reached the second stage of the sword heart realm. Anil's sword soul was born because she obtained Xueji, who ranks 7th on the famous sword list. Thus, Lu Shu deduced that the birth of the sword soul might be accompanied by certain opportunities. Maybe, get a good sword. It could also be that the small world is taking shape. Lu Shu's small world contains the most original power of heaven. The sword soul born from it is naturally more than 100 times more powerful than Anil's sword soul. Let me see what the sword soul will look like. The next second. Buzz. A clanging sword sound suddenly vibrated out from the white light, echoing throughout the world. The cause of such a strange phenomenon is enough to show that the grade of the sword soul is unimaginable. Lu the tree's eyes moved slightly, and the next second, a figure appeared from the white light. That's right. The figure. The man looked about 10 years old, still in the form of a little boy. However, when he opened his eyes, there is a maturity far beyond his age between his eyebrows, and his pupils seem to have a sword that cuts through the sky, shooting out and piercing the sky. A humanoid sword soul. Lu Shu felt a little surprised. According to legend, the humanoid sword soul is a heaven-level sword soul. It is the strongest among all sword souls. But the humanoid sword soul is also the most complex. Because it understands human emotions, so this type of sword soul is the most difficult to cultivate and tame. The humanoid sword soul will constantly use its own will to test whether the sword master is suitable for it. If it is not suitable, the humanoid sword soul will even do something like devour the master. Things, in order to seek relief. However, the sword soul came to Lu Shu with a very respectful attitude, knelt down and said, "Meet the master." Lu Shu glanced at him indifferently and said, "I heard that heaven-level sword souls have always been unruly. Do you think I am qualified?" With awe on his face, sword soul replied unhurriedly, "You have already understood the great Dao. Even the strongest sword intention cannot compete with you." Lu Shu's mind moved slightly, and he understood the meaning of the sword soul. Is it because of his own world tree? That's right. The world tree contains the origin of the avenue. That transcendent and supreme power surpasses any sword soul. Therefore, from the moment it was born, sword soul has determined that he is the most suitable master. All creatures with the sword as their heart will only obey the orders of the strongest human being in the world. Sword, the strongest is king. Sword soul updates this is so. The attributes of the origin of the avenue make sword souls of any level willing to succumb to Lu Shu after seeing him. This is the personality and attributes of the origin. Even if Lu Shu's world tree has not been fully cultivated came out, but the personality and aura were there, where the sword soul was born, and I realized that I could no longer understand it. Okay, from now on, just follow me. Lu Shu thought, and the Zuxian sword came out of his back. A hint of joy flashed across the face of the sword soul. He could see at a glance that this sword was a peerless sword. It was also the residence that the sword soul liked very much. If it can be attached to the divine sword, it will also be of great benefit to raise the sword soul. Not much to say. The sword soul immediately flew into the Zuxian sword. And Lu Shu's figure was facing the mist ahead. Keep walking away. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 315. Coordinates, 299, 276. We have arrived at the location of the suspected tomb. The place seems to be surrounded by death all year round, and the endless fog is like the miasma in the evil pond. How could there be human existence in a place like this? Even a divine tree master who has experienced many copies of the grey world would not be able to help but shudder if it were his first time coming to this place. Certainly. There has been no trace of human beings in this place for an unknown period of time. There is no sound, no color, no rules. It seems that everything has nothing to do with this space. Just today, a figure came here. The man rode a magical white dragon horse and came through the void. Without even noticing his figure, this man had already appeared in front of him. The visitor is none other than Lu Shu. Is this the 72 suspicious tombs? Lu Shu jumped off the white dragon horse and looked around with a solemn look, without relaxing his vigilance. Click. Click. Suddenly, Lu Shu noticed a strange noise coming from the Samsara domain. He immediately summoned the domain and found that the noise was actually from Old Man Su. Old Man Su's teeth were trembling and he was restless in the cage. Seemed to be afraid of something. His eyes glared at Lu Shu from time to time, as if to indicate that he should not move forward casually. Lu Shu's brows couldn't help but frown. He beat Old Man Su several times, but this time the guy's face remained unchanged, and he still looked like he was not afraid of death. He rushed towards me. Now, this guy actually behaved like a coward. What made Old Man Su feel instinctively afraid? At this moment, Sword Soul suddenly, the Zuxian sword emerged from behind Lu Shu in the form of a phantom, looking ahead with a solemn expression. Master, there is a barrier force in front of me. Enchantment? Lu Shu showed a puzzled look. He only heard Sword Soul explain this kind of barrier can turn this place into a confusing array. If you want to find the entrance, you must break the barrier. Lu Shu asked, how did you know that there was a barrier here? Sword Soul replied, my perception range will not be limited by the fog, so I can detect the existence of the barrier. Do you know how to break this barrier? Master, please follow me. Sword Soul stood in front and led the way. Lu Shu's eyes moved slightly and followed. He didn't expect that Sword Soul could actually identify the barrier here. Moreover, his mental power was not affected by the fog. Blockage. This is something Lu Shu didn't expect. The fog was very large. The farther forward, the fog became thicker and thicker. Lu Shu's mental power at this time had reached the SSS level, and he was no longer an ordinary god. The Tree Master can be compared, and he has practiced various techniques, and condensed a small world in his body. Even he can hardly distinguish the direction of the fog. This shows how weird this place is. However, fortunately, it is pregnant. The Sword Soul that came out could instinctively sense the location of the barrier. It passed a certain distance. The surrounding temperature suddenly dropped a few points. Old Man Su, who was trapped in the realm of reincarnation, looked even more uneasy, as if something was affecting him. It hit his nerves and made him go crazy on the spot. If it hadn't been isolated by a cover, I'm afraid this guy would have gone crazy and crazy. Is it almost there? Lu Shu's eyes became more focused at this time. He felt that there seemed to be something in front of him, and there was a special attraction. It was like a black hole. More like the entrance to an abyss. At this time, Sword Soul's gaze suddenly looked at an area on the left. He said, Master, that's where the entrance to the barrier is. Lu Shu walked over and saw a bronze gate appearing in front of him in the mist. The position of the gate was very strange. It stood quietly in the mist, but there was nothing around it. Is this the entrance to the barrier? Lu Shu walked over and looked at the bronze door. A prompt suddenly popped up in front of his eyes. 500 meters ahead, the entrance to the 72 suspicious tombs abyss appears. Break the barrier and enter the real tomb of doubt to challenge this special abyss. Note, there is great danger in this abyss. It is marked as a special copy and contains the secret of the undead. Immortal. A smile appeared on the corner of Lu Shu's mouth. This is what he is looking for. No wonder Old Man Su is so afraid of this place. Something about him may be related to the existence in the suspicious tomb, right? Let's go. Arriving in front of the door, The body of the bronze door was inlaid with two green-faced and fanged evil spirits. The door handle was wrapped with layers of chains. The chains sealed the door. This was also a breakthrough. This enchantment is the most critical place. Sword Soul, how should this door be opened? Lu Shu turned his head and looked at the sword spirit floating beside him. The sword spirit said, to break this chain, you need to use the power of the artifact. The master possesses the Zuxian sword, and he only needs to gather the soul of the sword to break the barrier with brute force. It's really simple and crude. Lu Shu thought there was some mystery in it. It turned out that just killing it would be enough. However, not every sacred tree master has the artifact. This is also equivalent to a threshold. Gods who do not meet the conditions, the tree master cannot open this door, so naturally there is no need to go inside and seek death. Even if he is completely lost in the fog will not prevent the tree master from using the teleportation formation. At most, he will waste a period of exploration and start again from. You can avoid losing your life by restarting the island and returning to other locations. I don't know what state my sword god template has reached now. Lu Shu's eyes moved slightly. Since the birth of Sword Soul, he has not yet tried to completely release the power of the sword god template. Therefore, it is not yet clear which stage his current sword god template has reached. The next second, the sword soul flew into the Zuxian sword. Lu Shu's right hand grasped the hilt of the sword. A sword intent that penetrated the sky suddenly burst out from his body. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 316. Supreme Sword Heart. Man and sword unite. The realm of heaven and man. Suddenly, a thunderous roar erupted from Lu Shu's body. The sword intent from above the 9 heavens suddenly poured into Lu Shu's body, as if it wanted to swallow everything. The Zuxian sword suddenly made a buzzing sound. It's like the avenue is flowing. In Lu Shu's pupils, a flash of Ling Ran's sword intent flashed. The next second, cut down with the Zuxian sword. There was no violent thunder, no fractured earth, no collapsed sky. From the moment the sword was really struck, everything in the world seemed to have become silent, and everything was passing quickly. It was indescribable. The simple sword made a bang sound when it landed on the iron rope. The door entangled in the center of the barrier suddenly began to shake like water waves, and the entire land began to crack like a broken mirror world. Success. There was a glint in Lu Shu's eyes. When the chain broke, his sword had already broken through the barrier of the 72 doubtful tombs. He took a deep breath and felt a transcendent state of mind. Speechless, unspeakable. Only when you truly understand the origin of swordsmanship can you experience such a state of mind. The transcendent world of swordsmanship looks so simple and unpretentious. The void of formless form. Lu Shu felt that he was far away from the extremely advanced swordsmanship. The realm is almost there. Just now, he burst into the peak of the realm of heaven and human, which actually slightly stimulated the origin of the small world in his body. This sword is so simple and unpretentious, as if no sword intention has been condensed, but it has the ability to cut all the power. It is already infinitely close to the formless void. Perhaps, if I kill some enemies with the way of the sword, I will be able to realize that level. As expected of the master, the realm of swordsmanship is more powerful than I imagined. The sword soul emerged from the Zuxian sword at this moment. At this moment, his form was a bit more staring than the phantom form just now. This is because Lu Shu's realm of swordsmanship has driven the growth of the sword soul. Therefore, he looked more real. Sword Soul looked at Lu Shu with even more admiration. Even Sword Soul would sincerely approve of that sword move. At this moment, the scene in front of him, swaying like water waves. Lu Shu felt his body sink, as if the earth under his feet suddenly disappeared, and his figure suddenly came to another place. A deep tomb appeared in front of Lu Shu. There were remains on the ground, broken bones. Unknown tombstones next to them, like silhouettes lurking nearby. From the depths, there was a creepy scream. If any sacred tree master came here inexplicably, he would be frightened and directly use teleportation go back. It's so weird. It seems that this world is more terrifying than a nightmare copy. Lu Shu showed a thoughtful look and said, I should have passed through that door and came to this coordinate reality world. Yes. Sword Soul nodded and said, this barrier is very special. It isolates the real world in this area. You must pass through that door to reach the real 72 tombs. To put it simply, the desolate world that Lu Shu passed through before, and the fog that can isolate spiritual power, are not essentially the real scene here. It is another world generated by the barrier. The purpose is in order to cover what is really hidden in this area. Only by breaking the barrier can we see the real world. Once here, Lu Shu's mental power will no longer be blocked by the fog. He frowned slightly and sensed deep in this tomb, there are extremely powerful resentments and countless enemies hiding the power of evil spirits. Da-da-da. At this moment, there was a sound of a pointer twisting in Lu Shu's pocket. Lu Shu thought about it and took out a small compass from the inner pocket of his clothes. The compass of destiny. This was a long time ago, a special prop that Lu Shu got from the ghost town. By consuming the corresponding soul, you can indicate where you want to go. Of course, this kind of prop has gradually become more and more popular in the Grey world, and there are many all-divine tree masters can obtain such basic props. But in the later stages, after Lu Shu obtained more maps of the Grey world and gained extremely strong mobility, he rarely used the destiny pointer. Da-da-da. The compass on the pointer was shaking randomly. Lu Shu frowned and fiddled with it a few times. He found that the pointer on the compass seemed to have been inexplicably disturbed by this place and became malfunctioning. Even if he consumes the primary soul, he couldn't make the pointer point to the position he wanted. Suddenly, the pointer of fate stopped. The pointer on the compass was fixed towards the left position. Could it be that Luo Pan wants to go to that place? Lu Shu tried to change the direction, but found that no matter how he moved, the pointer pointed to the corresponding position. This is a rare situation. After all, the function of the destiny compass is to consume soul materials to obtain the ability to point the direction. This will was determined by Lu Shu himself. But this time the pointer moved on its own. Could it be that there was something ahead? Go check it out. Lu Shu is very courageous now. After carving a teleportation array on the spot, he walked directly forward. Anyway, what he left here is just a clone. After the investigation and understanding of the situation, he will let the pet army come over and push horizontally. You won't lose no matter what. Master, please be careful. Sword Soul reminded me. Of course, this sentence also indicates that the future will not be peaceful. Click. Click. Suddenly, there was a weird noise from the tomb next to it. It was like a chainsaw rubbing crazily on the steel bars, making a sharp and harsh sound, which made people feel uncomfortable. Lu Shu instantly turned his gaze over, but I saw a headless evil ghost, digging open the grave covering its body, and crawling out of the grave. The next second, it rushed over. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 317. In front of Lu Shu, a monster panel suddenly appeared. Headless. Category, Cursed Undead. Danger Coefficient, S+. Perception Range, 1000 meters. Power, 3300. Speed, 3250. Defense, 3420. Skills, Immortality, Recklessness, Tarsal Maggot. Description, Cursed undead, they have the immortal bodies are difficult to kill, and special weapons must be used to dissolve the curse on them. The next second, a sharp sound like grinding teeth came out of the headless mouth, and waves of horrified light appeared in his pupils. Its speed was quite fast, and the muscles on its body exerted force instantly, and the iron chain made a clang sound. In the blink of an eye, Wu Ziu was behind Lu Shu and punched him in the head. However, a sword light appeared out of thin air in an instant, cutting off the arm that was attacking without a head. Lu Shu stood there calmly, with the sword intent condensing on his body. His realm has long surpassed the realm of man and sword. You can use swordsmanship all over your body. The headless man was cut off by this sword, lost an arm, and let out a painful cry. But soon, a strange light emerged from the wound on its broken right hand. After a while, new flesh and blood grew out of the severed arm wound and recovered as before. The headless man continued to let out a strange scream and rushed towards Lu Shu. Is this the ability of the undead? Lu Shu frowned slightly. It was the same as when he fought against Old Man Su. No, it seemed to be different. No matter how hard Old Man Su was beaten, there would be no trace on his body. But the headless arm was struck by Lu Shu, it was cut off. Although Lu Shu merged with the sword god template and the power of the sword was greatly improved again, his sword did not strike with all his strength. It was not even as good as when he used the Zuxian sword to try to kill with all his strength. When Old Man Su comes, it's going to be very powerful. Therefore, Lu Shu can cut off the headless arm with one sword, which shows that there are still differences between this guy and Old Man Su. Okay, let me see what secrets are hidden in your undead bodies. This thought flashed through Lu Shu's mind. The next second, the Zuxian sword came out of his back. The sword soul turned into a phantom and gradually submerged into the sword body. It was slashed out with another sword. The headless body, he paused and screamed again, but he turned around and tried to escape behind him. It was obvious that this monster felt threatened by Lu Shu's sword. However, Lu Shu's movements were so fast that no one could react. But come here, there is no way to avoid it. The simple sword light has penetrated the headless chest in an instant, and separated his body into two halves from bottom to top. The picture is extremely cruel. One sword, quickly, it's time to cross the void. When Lu Shu sheathed his sword, the headless body was separated into two halves and was still flying upside down in the air. Boom. After a while, there was a muffled sound on the ground. The two halves of the headless body fell to the ground miserably, constantly emitting black light. The cursed breath seemed to want to restore the headless body to perfection. However, the dim light continued to flicker, but the two halves of the headless body were shaking very hard, and it was difficult to come together again. This strange scene was reflected in front of Lu Shu's eyes, and his eyes moved slightly. Although my sword didn't completely kill the headless man, it still made it impossible for the monster to regroup for the time being. It seems that the power of the immortal is not eternal. If you suffer a too violent attack, or a blow from a higher divinity, it will be difficult for even the undead to recover. The immortal killing sword, with the attribute of immune disregard, is a divine weapon. Coupled with the sword spirit and sword god template combined with the swordsmanship, this sword slashes down, even the undead will have a hard time recovering. It can be seen that the headless body is divided into two halves and is still trembling, indicating that he is not dead, but has temporarily lost his ability to move. The black light that keeps trying to come together gives Lu Shu a very sinister attribute. And it feels like this tomb. Perhaps this tomb is an abyss. The undead here are not completely immortal, they are just products of the abyss. If the secret here can be broken, then the undead will naturally cease to exist. Seeing this, Lu Shu already understood. There is no truly immortal existence in this world. The so-called immortal is just connected to the abyss. As long as this abyss and the secret of the suspicious tomb can be broken, then here the undead will naturally die. But Old Man Su is different. Lu Shu opened the abyss of reincarnation and found that Old Man Su entered the tomb. On the contrary, he was not as manic as before, and his expression calmed down. This shows that the tombs there is a difference between the undead and Old Man Su. Old Man Su did not appear from the dungeon, but from the foggy town. There is no additional power of the abyss, but the real undead. There are still many secrets about this guy. Lu Shu looked at Old Man Su and thought to himself. He continued walking towards the front of the suspicious tomb. This seemed to be a natural passage. The entire palace, in addition to some man-made ancient buildings, also had a natural ecosystem. It's just that, there are all kinds of unknown graves piled next to it, so people passing by here are really not in the mood to appreciate the environment here. Click. Click. The tomb made horrifying noises from time to time. S-class undead monsters like Headless would crawl out of the tomb and attack people passing by. Lu Shu didn't even bother to look at the monster. Just one sword strike. After the Xuxian sword divided the headless body, these monsters lost their ability to move in a short time. In Lu Shu's eyes, they were no different from dead. At this moment, ahead, a special tombstone appeared. A tombstone with a name. There was a name engraved on it, Du Ling. The next second, a shrill scream of an innocent soul echoed in Lu Shu's ears. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 318. Du Ling. Category, Cursed Undead. Danger Coefficient, SS. Perception Range, 2000 meters. Power, 4300. Speed, 4250. Defense, 4420. Skills, Immortality, Song of Resentful Girl. Description, she used to be a dancer, and she dreamed of getting married since she was a child. To an outstanding king, but after waiting a lifetime, he only got a burial ending. From then on, her singing turned into the most piercing voice of injustice, and it was bound to make everyone sink into the singing of hell. There is a name on this tombstone. In this tomb, at least this maid can be regarded as a burial companion with some status. From this point, Lu Shu also judged the classification of monsters in this tomb. The worst ones are monsters without heads. They crawled out of the unknown tomb without even a corpse and could only rely on brute force. A buried singer with a name like Du Ling had certain special skills. The next second, a song with endless resentment floated from the front. Dancer Du Ling launched the Song of Resentment, causing range-type mental damage. This reminder just flashed before Lu Shu's eyes. But he was not affected by the singing at all. SSS-level mental power gathered into a great wall of mental power, blocking out the shrill singing. Lu Shu's spiritual consciousness was as strong as a barrier. It couldn't be shaken by a small monster. Cut it out with one sword. The sword light fell on Du Ling's body and instantly chopped off her head. The singing stopped suddenly. However, Du Ling's body was filled with the spirit of injustice that was 10 times more powerful than the headless one, and he was resurrected. There was a look of pain on the dancer's face. Although she was an immortal, she was a weak woman. When her head was chopped off, the pain caused the anger of the wronged soul to bloom in her pupils. "I am going to kill you!" Du Ling screamed. At this time, she gave up using singing as a mental attack. The nails on her hands suddenly swelled, like sharp claws made of white bones, and they scratched towards Lu Shu's neck. Lu Shu frowned, wrinkling slightly. He slashed out with the sword again. The dancer was immediately cut off. But her figure gathered together again and restored her original appearance, and the attack became more and more crazy. The cursed aura obtained by this dancer is stronger and her recovery ability is faster. Lu Shu tried to swing a few sword lights again, but found that the results were similar. He realized that he had to think of other ways to punish the dancer. At this moment, the sword soul suddenly sent a message to Lu Shu, saying, "Master, you first restrict the dancer's movements, and then open her tomb, you might gain something." Lu Shu was slightly startled. He looked at the tomb and found that the tombstone was still intact. "I see." Lu Shu showed a look of astonishment and secretly analyzed in his heart, this dancer is different from the headless one. She didn't just climb out of the tombstone. She is more similar to the form of the wronged soul. She is an energy body rather than a real body. Such a monster is more difficult to kill with ordinary attacks, and it is easier to gather the power in the abyss. Its recovery ability is not comparable to that of the leaderless. Since the dancer is not an entity, she must rely on some entity to survive. The answer may be hidden in this tomb. While his thoughts were floating, dancing girl Du Ling had already come to kill. Lu Shu came back to his senses and summoned the realm of reincarnation. The whirlpool of reincarnation appeared beside Du Ling out of thin air, and the gray-black threads turned into millions. A thin line immediately tied up the dancer's body. The dancer's body was wrapped with gray lines, her hands and feet were completely bound, and she could not move. She could only grit her teeth and let out a scream. Lu Shu didn't bother to pay attention at all, walking towards the dancer's tomb. At this moment, Du Ling's eyes flashed with panic, and the strength of the struggle in his hands became stronger. He gritted his teeth, as if Lu Shu continued to walk towards the tombstone, she was about to, it's like eating the other person. Boom! Cut it away with one sword. The dancer's tombstone was immediately split open. A delicate box was revealed inside. Lu Shu opened the box and saw a flute inside. The item panel popped up in front of him. Dancing girl's flute. This is a flute made by the dancing girl's mother from reed poles by the river before she entered the palace. Just blowing this flute can put the restless soul to rest, and even the resentment from hell can calm the mind. Lu Shu is naturally no stranger to musical instruments. When I explored the ruins a few times in the past, I often found illustrations of skills related to piano art. This also includes a lot of music theory knowledge. Through music theory and SSS-level mental power, it is not easy for Lu Shu to use this flute. The moment he opened the box, Lu Shu already knew what he should do next. He placed the flute gently to his lips. The melodious sound of the flute, with its long and mournful tone, echoed around the tomb. Such as resentment, admiration, crying and complaining. The moment she heard the sound of the flute, the dancer's figure suddenly stopped, half kneeling on the ground, and let out a cry of pain. It seems like he is remembering something from the past. She hugged her brain tightly, letting out a slightly painful groan, enduring the painful feeling that her brain was about to burst. But towards the end of the song, it suddenly became softer, with a healing connotation. It's like entering a distant paradise. At this time, the dancer's pain gradually stopped, and her eyes looked forward confusedly, as if she was recalling some past events. For a long time, a stream of tears left the corners of the dancer's eyes. The next second, her wronged soul gradually turned into black smoke and disappeared into the air. The injured souls filled with pain were redeemed, all curses were purified, and they ascended to the paradise of bliss. This abyss is a hell, using all living beings as a prison, turning all the people buried by past civilizations into monsters who have lost everything. Although they have gained eternal life, they are actually dead long ago. Lu Shu gently filled the tombstone with Lois, then took the dancer's flute and continued walking forward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 319. Ding. Your life fruit X1 is ripe. Ding. The fruits of your Holy Spirit's growth X1 are ripe. Walking in the dark tomb, a piece of golden text suddenly popped up in front of Lu Shu's dark eyes. Only then did he remember that after walking in the tomb for several days, plus the time spent rushing and breaking the barrier, before he knew it, the time had come for the next product of the sacred tree. Fruit of life. I wonder what new pets I can get this time. Lu Shu thought secretly in his heart. The next second, his consciousness returned to the sacred tree island. A breeze blew by. The sacred tree made a roaring sound. The golden sunlight shined slantly on the sacred tree covered with golden leaves, and the light scattered all over the sky is as dazzling as the kingdom of God. Lu Shu's body was bathed in spiritual energy. Open your eyes, and at that moment, the world becomes silent. Wow! As the breeze blew by, a breath of new life was faintly revealed on the crown of the sacred tree. That is the fruit of life. Contains new life essence. Follow the growth of the Holy Spirit and the fruits will grow together. It's time to plant a wave of fruit. Lu Shu jumped up and swayed back and forth like a shadow. His current movement speed seemed as if he had not moved at all, just a shadow flashing past. In fact, he had already made one trip back and forth from the tree crown, and there was more in his hand. He picked up two brightly colored fruits. Leaning down, Lu Shu gently buried the fruit containing the breath of life and another Holy Spirit growth fruit in the soil. After a moment, the two subspecies spiritual trees suddenly appeared. Rising from the soil, Lu Shu witnessed the growth of the spiritual tree at a speed visible to the naked eye, and an interface popped up in front of his eyes. Life fruit tree. Variety, subspecies spirit tree. Product, life fruit. Cycle, 0.5 days, 500/1000. Production times remaining, 1. Holy Spirit growth fruit tree. Variety, subspecies spirit tree. Product, Holy Spirit growth fruit. Cycle, 0.5 days, 500/1000. Production times remaining, 1. Buzz. At this moment, a sacred sound suddenly came from the sacred tree. It seemed to be talking. Lu Shu immediately raised his head, his pupils reflected the golden leaves, and suddenly bloomed with fluorescence. The whole sacred tree seemed to be being favored by the gods, bathed in the divine light and condensed the holy patterns. A sacred aura that transcended all living things diffused from the divine tree and covered the entire island. Fairy spirits were born one after another, condensing phantoms. Various myths creatures also ran out from every corner of the island and cast their gazes in the direction of the sacred tree. Lu Shu looked at the sacred tree in surprise and said, finally upgraded. After this period of time, the sacred tree has accumulated enough growth value. Your sacred tree has grown from an intermediate sacred tree to a high-level sacred tree. The next second, in front of Lu Shu's eyes, a new sacred tree panel appeared. Divine tree. Stage, Advanced Holy Tree. Sunlight, 2510/day, 25.1x100. Spiritual energy, 2040/day, 20.4x100. Subspecies spiritual tree remaining capacity, 15, total 17. Products, Hedeo fruit, Hedeo kung fu fruit, Hedeo deo fruit. Production cycle, 15 days, 30,000/2000. Growth points, 505,200, 64.4x100 equals 6440/day. Next stage, Divine Tree, 2000000 growth points. It has finally grown into a high-level holy tree. A hint of joy flashed in Lu Shu's eyes. Then, his eyes fell on the panel. His eyes moved slightly, and he thought to himself, is the next level the real sacred tree? Beyond the power of the laws of the holy pattern, reach the realm of gods. Of course, the required growth points also directly increased from the original 500,000 to 2 million. This is not a small sum. Although it absorbs more sunlight and the conversion efficiency of spiritual energy is faster, the growth points per day are now as many as 6,000 points, but there is still a lot of difference between the 2,000,000 points. The fruit of harmony. Lu Shu turned his attention to the next product. It can be easily seen from the names that these fruits are related to the realm of harmony. But Lu Shu has now condensed his own little world. His realm is still stuck in the realm of returning to the virtual world. However, there is no problem in swallowing the fruit of harmony. Because the small world is originally the exclusive domain of Hedeo power, but Lu Shu condensed a world in his body at an earlier state, which can be said to have opened up a path unprecedented and unprecedented. So, even if Lu Shu swallows the Hedeo fruit in the realm of returning to the void, there will be no problem. His realm breakthrough seems to be much slower, but it is quite stable. Once you reach that higher realm, it will be a sure thing to break through and become a true immortal. What is worse now is to collect the remaining 2 Deo patterns as soon as possible. In this way, as long as the realm is reached, then one can combine Deo and become an immortal. 15 days. Lu Shu's eyes moved slightly. The growth rate of the sacred tree has accelerated a lot. However, as the level increases, the speed of the next product will also slow down. If Lu Shu had not grown 100 times, we would have had to wait until the year of the monkey to wait for the next fruit to appear. There are already some obstacles ahead of the sea area. It is not yet possible to break through the 25,000-meter sea area. Moreover, deep-sea fishing rods cannot reach such deep waters, and no new top-quality life essence has been recorded recently. Lu Shu frowned in a rare way, feeling that he had progressed too fast in the past, but now he encountered some bottlenecks. He quickly calmed down and stopped thinking so much. Anyway, what should be yours will definitely be yours. There's no use worrying, right now. 2 reminders came to his ears. Ding! Your life fruit tree has reached the production cycle, life fruit add 100. Ding! Your Holy Spirit growth fruit tree has reached the production cycle, and the fruit of life is add 100. Planting trees for all, 3 consecutive SSS-level talents at the beginning. Author, Immortal. Chapter 320. Finally the production has reached the production cycle. Lu Shu's eyes flashed with joy. Then, he picked all the fruits of life and placed them under the sacred tree. Anna, the angel of life, descended to the side of the sacred tree, and a white line appeared in his palm. Light. The pure breath of life flows out from the slender white fingertips and penetrates into the fruit of life, helping the fruit to hatch further. It only takes 3 days for the new life fruit to hatch. Moreover, with Anna's help in the past few days, the fruit of life may be able to further hatch a higher level mentality. Wait, the breath of life controlled by Anna seems to be stronger than before. Lu Shu used his mind and sensed it. He immediately discovered that Anna's level was much higher than before. Moreover, there were originally a pair of pure white wings behind it, but behind the wings, they spread out again. A pair of small wings appeared. 2 pairs of wings. Lu Shu couldn't help but think of the angel setting in his mind. The level of a genius is judged based on its wings. Each evolution adds an extra pair of wings. The highest form is the 12-winged angel. Anna now has 2 pairs of wings. From the intermediate holy tree to the high-level holy tree, the improvement brought to Anna is not that obvious. If it were from a holy tree to a divine tree, the changes would probably be more intuitive. Lu Shu thought secretly in his heart. At this moment, a chat window suddenly appeared in front of him. Anna President, I have broken through the highest record of the 65th floor of the Tower of Heritage. It is estimated that it will not be a problem to break through to the 90th floor next. Thank you for the fruit you gave me. Below this message, also comes with a video. Lu Shu opened the memory video. The scene inside is clearly the scene inside the Tower of Heritage. On a huge, ancient, dark clouded altar, countless grey world monsters, carrying the aura of the abyss, rushed towards Anil. There was no trace of fear on Anli's bright face. Shueji turned into a stream of incandescent light and soared into the sky. The girl tapped her toes lightly, and her unparalleled figure instantly rose into the air. She grasped the hilt of Shueji's sword and slashed out with one strike. The mighty sword light instantly turned into endless water waves and spread out in all directions. The blades, which were hundreds of feet long, slashed across the altar randomly, leaving countless deep ravines on the land. Wherever the sword light passed, all the monsters in the Grey World were killed. Even with the aura bonus of the Abyss, it can't stop Onal's power at this time. No matter how many monsters there are, they are just a little bit close to peace and are suppressed to death by their terrifying power. The state of peace and happiness has actually reached the peak of Xian. Lu Shu looked at the picture in the video and felt a slight difference. The peak of the Sword Heart realm is just one step away from the realm where man and sword merge into one. At this realm, it is completely comparable to an SS-level Divine Tree Master. Even if it is only this one with this ability, he can also reach the top of the rankings among the Sacred Tree Masters. However, Onal also swallowed the powerful Miracle Fruit and Vajra Immortal Fruit. That seemingly fragile girl's body actually hides an extremely brutal and violent power. In fact, before the 50th floor, these Grey World monsters were not even qualified to let Onal use his sword, so they were all killed with one punch. The purpose is to reserve an extra layer of power for the subsequent battle. When she activated the power of the Sword God template, the scene completely turned into a one-sided harvest mode. The progress of the strategy will also become quite fast. Lu Shu nodded and sent a compliment. Good. According to his estimation, after the Sword God template fruit is paired with a famous sword like Shueji, and after about 10 levels of fighting, Onal will be able to break through to the realm of man-sword integration. As long as this realm is reached, plus with SSS level strength and physique, Onal can definitely compete with the top Divine Tree Masters. Clearing the highest level of the Tower of Heritage may not be a problem. The ability of the Sword God template seems to be useful for clearing this strategy-based copy. It has an extremely powerful restraint effect. Every time the sword is struck, it can cause additional damage to all oncoming Grey World monsters. This is an ability that other Sacred Tree Masters do not have. With this blessing, Onal kills the Legend of the Inheritance. The monsters in the tower are much more relaxed than others. Tower of Inheritance. Onal kept waving the Shueji in his hand, and the scene where the sword light flashed across the surroundings was a picture of exquisite art. She closed her eyes and quietly felt the power of the sword god. For a moment, when he opened his eyes, all the monsters around him had been killed. Not even close. Le murmured to herself. She sensed the realm of the sword god's template, and was constantly trying to transcend the realm of the sword heart and achieve a further unity of man and sword. Shueji faintly let out a burst of sword sounds, and it seemed that she also sensed Li's sword heart was about to break through to the next realm, and let out a burst of joyful cheers. If it reaches a higher realm, even the sword soul contained in Shueji can manifest a human form like Lu Shu's sword soul. However, now the Shueji sword soul only possesses human wisdom, but cannot yet achieve the step of condensing a human form. Suddenly, Lu Shu's reply appeared in front of Onal's eyes. Good. He, the president praised me. Onal immediately showed an expression of great joy, just like a little girl who worked hard to practice dancing and finally got the teacher's approval. Her eyebrows and eyes were crooked with a smile. That otherworldly image disappeared without a trace. Without a trace. The president is so optimistic about me, I must break through the 100th floor of this inheritance tower. I can't let other Sacred Tree Masters outsmart our Akatsuki organization. Onal secretly encouraged himself in his heart. His goal was higher than before. When he first came in, Onal thought that he could succeed if he could challenge the 50 floors. After all, Mu Yu Tingfeng, who is now ranked first, could only break through only the 65th floor. As a result, Anil has now penetrated the 65th floor without knowing it. Moreover, she also felt a sense of relief. She thought the Tower of Heritage was so difficult. That's it?